Oi, oi, hello and welcome to another GG.CO.UK video. Here I'm going to try and review the Cheltenham Festival as quickly as possible, but hopefully with some sort of value to it too. Now, of course, we did our Cheltenham Festival preview and put up 10 selections. I will talk about mine in this video, just because it's, I guess, a bit of housekeeping to get those through. Coppet de Bull was the nap, did manage to win, and I thought things were going to go off to a fly like they would do at a typical festival. This year, as you guys know, was not a typical festival. We'll talk about that in some of the other races as they come along. Next best, John Bomb made the mistake, issue at the start, come second. Lulamba, poked by a horse that has not jumped over hurdles yet, beaten by 100 to 1 shot, ran second, still ran well, but not good. Stumptown did win the cross country. Thought that was a very good performance, and I did think that the weight wouldn't make a difference to him. I don't think what happened with Vanillier in the early turns actually made a difference to that horse's chance, because they still had 3+ miles to run in there. But yeah, I thought Stumptown would win, and obviously he managed to get the job done, so that felt good too. Ballyburn, I think tactically they got the race wrong, but he did ultimately get beat. The Yellow Clay bumped into just an absolute aeroplane of a horse who, I'll hold my hands up, I got wrong, or I didn't have the same confidence that other people did in the New Lion's ability, and he was beaten by a better horse. It was a good ride, I thought, from Jack Kennedy. He got the inside of the rail, he had no excuses going in there. Although with the results this week, Jack not riding a winner and Gordon only having the one, not to say anything to do with form or anything like that, but I would worry how fit Jack Kennedy was this week, but that's not making excuses, especially in the New Lions race. The New Line was just the best horse in that race. Transmission in the National Hunt Chase, managed to get a 5th position, but that's only because lots of horses fell and unseat towards the end, which is what you never want to see. Ultimately disappointing from him. I definitely got that one wrong, especially with the running against Haiti Couleurs. He was just a very ready winner of the race, so got that race wrong. The Changing Man in the Ultima, we were close to getting that one right. We bumped into a very well handicapped horse in the winner. Wouldn't surprise me if that horse went up a stone and managed to go in again after. Very well handicapped, very good ride off the front, just beaten by a better horse. The Changing Man beat everyone bar one, but that's racing, right? Dino Blue in the Mare's Chase, I was very pleased that I called that race, I think, to pretty much a T. I mean, I can't predict that Aligori Devas is going to fall, but Dino Blue had the race, already won at that point. I suggested that Mark Walsh, I thought, wanted to get redemption for last year by taking that inside early, getting first run, and he seemed to be wanting to do that the whole way around, having the rail to his inside. So good performance from Dino Blue. Of course, the way the week went, you reach that point and you still don't believe you're actually going to get those ones in. And then Lucky Place in the Stairs Hurdle. It was a slowly run race, not so much emphasis on stamina. Ground was perfect for him. He was just far too keen. That's enough to say that, you know, I don't think he ran as well as he possibly could have done, but the fact that he's keen means he did run as well as he could have done, because on the day he just wasn't anywhere near good enough. So that was a bit disappointing, especially how everything panned out. But we are where we are with that one. So look, there was a few winners in there, a few seconds, and I feel like hard luck stories, but that's racing, right? Now, onto the performances themselves. Don't want to go through every single race because I could. I mean, I've reviewed them all, but I don't want to take too long on this. And there's some races I don't think there's any value I can really add in there. I mean, Coppet de Board in the Supreme, I do want to mention him because he's obviously an absolute aeroplane. Looked to me a little bit like York Hill. He might be keeping a little bit to himself. I think he's a horse with loads of ability, but I would have that slight reservation in my mind at the back. I'm definitely being harsh. He's only 5. It was his 3rd hurdle run, only his 4th run under rules. He's not an ex-pointer. He was a store horse. He's not from France. He just had a bumper and had those 3 hurdle runs. So he is entitled to be babyish, but I want to keep an eye on him. And especially for the fact that they've had to put the hood on him to settle him down. I don't think in any way, shape or form he's going to be a dog, but I just mean like that with like a York Hill. I hope he fulfills his full promise. Small, slight reservation about him, but that's me being fully pedantic. I thought it was a hell of a performance from him. In the Arkle, Django Bay did obviously pick up the pieces from Masborough making a mistake, but I don't think he's a future champion chaser. I think he does want further. Had Masborough not made that mistake, I think Django Bay would have been never nearer second, and we'd have all said, well, he would be better when he steps up in trip. Mare's Hurdle, Lossie Mouth was just a beast, wasn't she? I think they've got to try and work their way to getting her to be a champion hurdle horse like they wanted to this season, but they've got to try and do that for next year. Be interested to see where they go with her after. Champion Hurdle was just a mad one, wasn't it? But you'd have to argue now, you know, I was keen on Brighter Days Ahead in the Mare's Hurdle last year. I was against her for the Champion Hurdle this year. I thought Constitution Hill would have won. I still believe he would had he stood up, but we don't know that. But she didn't run very well when she's got very few excuses. State Man Falling was brutal, wasn't it? Considering he looked like he had the race at his mercy. But fair play to Golden Ace from Connections for rolling the dice, because she's got a champion hurdle to her name now, and she's won 2 Cheltenham Festivals. Cheltenham Festival form is not to be knocked. Fred Winter, the only thing I think is worth mentioning there, like the winners won well, but I fancied Wendrock for this. I thought his mark was way too high, and he actually ran really well in there. So I think Wendrock's a horse to keep an eye on going forward. We talked about the Turners. New Line definitely was the best horse in the race. Champion Hurdle type for next year for sure. Final Demand in third. I thought he was an Albert Bartlett type, and I still think that's the same. I don't think he was quite quick enough in there. Good looking race. Definitely think the first two are very special. I think the third is very special too, but he just needs to go out and trip. The Brown Advisory touched on Ballyburn, and I think tactically they got it wrong, which they did say. Lecky Watson wasn't far behind Stellar Story and Better Days Ahead at Punchtown last year, so while it was a bit of a shock at the prices given Ballyburn was so well backed as well, Lecky Watson's not a disgraced winner to have his name on a Brown Advisory trophy, for all that it was a bit of a shock. Cross Country, I've touched on Stumptown, and I do think he was just the best horse in the race. It being a handicap now, it's not going to be the same fruition for every single year, but yeah, we'll have to see how the cross country pans out year in year. The Queen Mum was probably frustrating. We had starter issues all week, and then John Bond got caught by the tape, didn't he? But I'll be honest, and as someone that fancied him as well, made him my next best on those top 10 bets, he didn't jump good enough. And as much as he was out of position at the start, Nico was third on him turning up when they went past the best mate enclosure, going down the back straight, and he just didn't jump quick enough. Now, that's why Nico had to ask him to go a little bit, and that's why he made the mistake. And look, all things told, if he had jumped off out the front, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold that position, because I don't think his jumping was quite up to scratch. Like, he was fine, he just wasn't quick. And, you do have to now fully bring into the equation that he's just not as good at Cheltenham. However, without the mistake, you still think that he would have been able to win the race. Marine National had the race left at his mercy after the last one, Quilixios fell. And as much as I liked him over Christmas, I was questioning his constitution in the finish. I still think he had Quilixios well beaten, but we don't know. But, it's a good win for Marine National, and it was lovely to see that result, given what's happened in recent times as well. So fair play to him. In the bumper, I think that's just like a bit of a mad one. Bambino Viva is a very, very, very nice horse, but you look at some of the horses that have finished into a bit of a place. It's a bit of a mad one. I say this on previous videos, and it's not always true, but Gigginstown horses in the bumper, especially at Cheltenham, they always get, I say not always get hyped, they can often be quite hyped, and they don't always fulfill to deliver. But yeah, I'd get the gut feeling it's an average bunch of bumper horses before winning to Cheltenham, and I think the result would almost agree with that. Bambino Fever does look quite nice though, to be fair. On to Thursday, the Mare's Novice, 6.5 was definitely, I say definitely the best horse of the race, was definitely a very, what do I want to say about her? I want to say that she's come out of the race not being disgraced, but I do wonder whether Keith Donoghue could have pushed the button sooner on her, because the winner was being scrubbed along for a long way out, and maybe he could have nicked a couple more lengths out of them. That horse having something to aim at and to pass, I don't know, maybe made it easier. But look, maybe the best horse was in second. I don't want to take too much away from the winner, because they've still got the job done. But she was a very nice performance the whole way she went about the race as well. So she looks like a proper Mare's Hurdle horse for next year. Novice handicap I will touch on, because it was great to see Caldwell Potter doing what he did just out from the front. Lovely performance. And you go back to the middle distance race where he ran against Django Bay. I think he was giving Django Bay some weight. Handstands in there as well. Like, there's some okay form in and around him, but I don't know where they're going to go with him now would be the thing. But look, they've had their day in the sun. They've had a Cheltenham Festival win out of him. Happy days. Pertemps was, I'll quickly touch on that because I did fancy Dolly the Great last year. Could have made a bit of a case for him in this race. Stable, Nicky Henderson having the first and second with Jericho de Repene. Just goes to show a little bit like with Monmouth winning the year before. It's not always the plotty type of race that we think it is in these recent renewals. Both these horses had other plans to go chasing, and just because it didn't work out for them, that meant that they managed to retain a reasonable mark. They've gone miles out in trip as well, so don't know. It's just the Pertemps is the Pertemps, right? The Ryanair Chase was a very, very, very good performance from Factifile, but I'm staggered why James Reevely did not go out and go on with LA Francais. Protectorate was far too keen in the race, but they had that horse in mind for potentially running in a champion chase, given how fast they're saying that you can go out, and they didn't go and make the run. And look, it didn't affect the result. Hasn't had any experience around Cheltenham, that's probably paid. Factifile looked phenomenal, and it was at the stage of the festival as well where, especially punters, I think, and just spectators, we needed that type of performance to come in. Stayers Hurdle then rolls around, quick ground, we know that, but Bob Ollinger, what a fantastic performance. Again, festival form coming up trumps. I've touched on Lucky Place. I don't think he ran very well at all. I know he was keen, and you can excuse me a bit for that, but I've put him on the naughty step for the time being. Tiapu's run well, like he does handle the ground. It's just, it's not enough of a test for him to get the job done in that occasion. He's run well. Yeah, Bob Allen just won it in a sprint at the end. The plate's worth mentioning because Jaguar's been a bit of a plot this season, hasn't he? There's a few fancied horses in there. Jordan's and Company Sergeant was fancied as well. So like the right horses have finished towards the top. Be interesting to see what the handicapper does with Jaguar because it might force him into sort of graded company next time out. Kim Muir was another plotty one, wasn't it, for JP? Johnny Who got beat at the line. I mean, fair play to anyone that backed the winner and found the winner. Anyone that kept the faith of Johnny Who blindly, given the fact that they must have messed about of him for him to do that performance, given his last couple of starts, was what it was, wasn't it? It was a good performance from the winner, and it's a good performance from the second. It's trainers, it's targeting races. We all know what they're trying to do, right? Triumph Hurdle to cover off Friday. Look, this is definitely like pocket talk talking. But how can you let a horse that hasn't jumped a hurdle running a grade 1 at Cheltenham, let alone running it, let him win it? But one of those... I thought Lulamba ran really well. I thought East India Dock, I wonder if Sam Twister-Davies could have pushed the button on him a bit sooner. It's not often you'll see a Triumph Hurdle where you've got 6 horses that aren't being ridden hard at it as they turn in for home. Maybe if he'd have made it a bit more of a test, the Tony Bloom winner wouldn't have been able to go with him and then might not have got up. But again, similarly, I felt like to the Mares Novice Hurdle winner, having something to aim at was the benefit for the winner that day. Fair play to Poneros for winning it, and fair play if anyone managed to get on. Started to feel like Friday we were going to get just the same sort of brutality as the rest of the week, but in the county hurdle, Willie Mullins, we know that he absolutely slaps up this race. He's had first, third and fourth. Paul Tanner's got the right ride on there as well again. Just a good performance from Cargase, to be fair. I would say that Ethical Diamond possibly could be upgraded, given the horse probably wants to be ridden more prominently. Still ran well to finish where he did. Mare's Chase, already touched it with Dino Blue. I think I called the race to a T. Fair play. Best horse in the race won. And it was nice to see her getting it back in front after she must have had some sort of breathing issue, sporting the tongue tie. The Albert Bartlett, Jasmine DeVoe, given the fact they've only got 1 hurdle to jump once they've got half a mile into the end of the race, all that horse needed to do was jump a little bit better early on, which he definitely did. I didn't think it looked a vintage renewal of the race. I think fair play to Jasmine to get the win, but you know, they talk about potentially going over fences with him or that horse in open company. I'd probably want to be cautious of him because he still made a couple of mistakes in there, but I think his engine got the job done. I want to give a little mention to Jigs Forge that was 4-1 on his last start. I think it was the Riverdon. 125 to 1 this race, like proper friendless. Finished 6th. He's run okay. He was friendless in the market again. So I think he must be a useful horse. I don't know if he's had an issue or something in the last couple of runs, but for whatever reason, he's run better than he was probably expected. But like I say, if you go back to some of his earlier runs, he was probably priced bigger than he should have been. So he was one that I sort of made a little bit of a note of for maybe handicapping next year. Gold Cup. I can't really believe that Galloping got beat, especially the way that he did. I know the way you're thinking as a horse. I know that he's got some big, decent speed figures from Aintree last year. I just expected that Galloping would be too quick in the race. You got the real whacker and Banbridge that would have appreciated the ground, beaten outside. Arguably, it might have been too quick a ground for Galloping de Champs, but again, I haven't done the time work on this one. I don't know whether they've run it not as fast as they could have done. But if I know the way your thinking's tanked through that race, the jumping was a little bit questionable, a couple of flights towards the end, but only because they were sort of turning the screw. But if they've gone a reasonable gallop in that Gold Cup and he's done what he's done, then he's an absolute freak. It definitely looked like a freakish performance, phenomenal, and you'd argue what's going to beat him in a Gold Cup next year. So incredible, like very good race, painful result for Galloping de Champs followers, I'm sure, but I know the way thinking was a very good winner of the Gold Cup essentially. And then the Martin Pipe, I've talked on a couple of other previews about some of this stuff. I don't know if I've done it on a GG one, but like I couldn't really have Wood Who as being a phenomenally well handicapped horse, but there was a bit of buzz about her coming into the festival. And I touched on the Take No Chances form line and then through like a bit of Cargase as well. Wood Who did have some form lines that have been boosted. Now she's won the race like she had plenty in hand. She looks like a Mare's Hurdle type horse for next year. A lot of money came for that East India Express, which I could see to an extent, but I didn't think he was very well handicapped, and he's run very well into second. Of course, Kopek to me was woefully disappointing. Too bad to be true, you'd expect. So, you know, you'd forgive him at some point, but don't know how quickly they're going to turn that one around and do something with him. But yeah, I think that the whole bulk of the form for the Martin Pipe, the winner looks very good. And then I'd say the rest behind, maybe not so much, especially considering it was a handicap and their marks might not move around too much in there.